So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And today, I'm delighted that we have back with us Danny McAllister, who's managing director at Simpson Wood. So, Danny, firstly, thank you for spending a bit more time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and Simpson Wood, what you do, how you help people, that would be great.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much, Chris. Good to be back with you. As I said, I'm Danny McAllister, Managing Director at Simpson Wood. So we're accountants, business advisors, financial advising group of companies based in Huddersfield, covering uh, audit accounts, tax compliance, tax advice, trust and estates, payroll, along with financial planning and wealth management services as well.
Brilliant, brilliant. What a great suite of services to offer. That the fact that you can move a client in between those different things, because from my perspective, it's great that you know what's going on in the business as well as that be able to advise them on the wealth and financial investments. And makes lot of change. So, what makes a great client for you? What are the sort of people that you serve best? Would you say?
So I suppose the bread and butter of our clients over the years have always been sort of family owner managed businesses. So where they tend to need quite a lot of our services altogether. So yeah, they need all. So typically businesses from a couple of million all the way up to possibly pushing 100 million sort of turnover.
Right.
Uh, that sort of size is stuff that we do day after day. From a personal point of view, I suppose those business owners or people with similar sort of wealth or amounts to invest are where we get our majority of our clients from. Um, More recently, I suppose, in the audit space, there's some areas where we're going to other sort of client types, just because from an audit perspective, you can't do all that services because of independence. So they tend to be more sort of arm's length sort of businesses that have
Yes.
separate management and ownerships, and we
Yes.
get involved in those as well.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, and I guess that as you sort of said, that ability to look across the business and its owners to be able to talk about, where's best, what tax structure is best for the client, what investment structure, the business, the business and their personal income. I guess really helps people get that holistic approach, I guess, to their financial health and wealth.
Yeah, and a lot of the planning that we do is around sort of exit planning, and that's not to say someone's going to be leaving within a month. It might be
Yeah.
exit planning for 10 years' time. Uh,
Yes.
Planning it well so that they know how much money they want to have at that point, and well, what do you need to do to get to that point? What do you need to invest now? How much do you need to put into your pension so that your plan comes 60 or 55, whatever it might be, can come to fruition, and what you dreamed about is then there.
Yeah. It's something we do from a business coaching perspective of understand aligning, we call it alignment, so aligning the business goals to the personal goals of its owners.
Yeah,
Having understood exactly that, where do you want to, where do you want to live? What do you want to own? What do you want
yeah.
to do? But once we've understood that and what the business needs to deliver that, it's really important to introduce people like yourself to say, okay, so what's the most effective and efficient way to maintain and keep the majority of the wealth that's created through the business?
Exactly, setting the goals and working backwards.
Yeah.
Uh, because the more time you've got, the more chance you've got of achieving that as
Yes.
well. Particularly
Yeah.
when you're looking at businesses and making changes and growth of investments and things like that. Yeah, you need time, and compounding makes that even more beneficial then.
Yes, I'd urge anyone that's even a thought of the future, whether it's whatever that future looks like. You mentioned exit to talk to the likes of yourselves to get that clarity,
Yeah,
whatever that can look like. What do I need to do now? Because the
yeah.
earlier the better, from my understanding.
And it's also then making sure that those goals that are realistic and that
Yeah.
they can be achieved.
Yes.
There might be some that are challenging, but it's a case of, well, if that's what you really want, these are the actions you're going to have to take to get there. And that
Absolutely.
might that might be a really big challenge. So it might be a case of that's not possible, and therefore I have to adjust my goals slightly.
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree. What I find, I don't know if you found this, but when I do that exercise, and I love doing that alignment process because almost without exception, I found that the people I work with are a lot closer to achieving their goals than they actually thought. I don't know if you find this as a common thing. It's like, and when they actually, it's almost like a light bulb comes on when they see the potential for
Yeah.
achieving most of what you say. Absolutely, it's not, not everything is achievable, but I find a lot of people, their goals are a lot more achievable than they thought they were.
It's interesting when you look, it's particularly when you look at sort of retirement planning and exit planning, because often you look at it, right, well, what income levels and what capital do you need at that point? And when you plan that out, then and you work out that number, it scares a lot of people.
Yes,
Am I ever going to have that amount? But then when you break it down to, well, you'll have your pension that gives you this, and a salary for so many years that gives you this, and
yes,
your house that you might, um, move,
D-
downsize
size,
that
yeah,
house and get some capital from that, still not have a mortgage to pay. That's an expense. Like, once you've broken all that down, it gets much closer. Whilst
yeah.
what does seem a really big number, if you look at what's the amount I need age 60 to provide for the rest of my life, to get to that point can be a lot more achievable than you think.
Yes. Funny enough, I remember doing very early days as an action coach. I worked with an accountancy practice, and we were just looking at working together. And I said, look, let me do this exercise for you and your business, just as a way of demonstrating the value and the purpose. And we did it. And there were two partners in the business, and I remember it very well. There was probably about 15 years difference in age, something like that. And
Yeah.
and it was fascinating to actually, having worked out what they wanted to achieve and where they were, that the elder of the two was actually past the win line, and hadn't really realised it because they'd not actually put it into that sort of physical, numbers, etc. And it was a fascinating, just say, well, you know, by all means continue to work, but the things
Yeah.
you said you wanted to achieve, you've already got there.
Yeah.
And I found that fascinating. So, Danny, I think it's probably about best part of a year. I think it's probably about 11 months since we last spoke. And I'm keen to know what's changed for you and the business over that last sort of year or so.
Yeah. So more growth for the business. So year on year turnovers by about 11%. So
Brilliant.
great there. New clients, about 140 new clients over the last year.
Wow.
On the financial services side, the assets under management, so the amounts that we manage for all our clients has gone up. We're approaching £500 million now that we manage for clients.
Wow.
So yeah, those are big sort of KPIs that we manage. Um, so yeah, I suppose onwards and upwards sort of thing. You're always looking for more of the right type of clients, and what it enables you to do is then yeah make sure that you value the type of clients that you have and that they
Yep.
value you, so you can work. You don't have to work for those that potentially just wanted the cheapest service that they can find.
Yes, absolutely. And I think every business needs to be really clear on what makes a great client, because what makes a great client for one business can be different to another business. And and we just, it's really important that we're really clear so we can find the right ones to serve. I find there's normally this sort of belief that the best clients are the best clients for every business, but that's not always the case, I think.
No, no. I
Well,
think the different sizes and the different service lines that you offer determine that.
yeah,
Um, you know, a good client for us, it might be an audit client, which would not be a good client for somebody who doesn't do audits.
yeah, absolutely.
It has to fit in with your, or a good client for us because we can offer payroll and wealth management and things like that. Might not be the greatest client for someone where they have to farm all that out to
Yeah,
parties.
makes perfect sense. So looking back over these last 12 months, what are some of the key challenges and key wins that you've seen over this period?
So I suppose challenges is probably creating the environment to recruit and retain the quality members of staff still,
Yeah,
recruiting the right team and retaining them. Um, I mean, hopefully one of the things that we've achieved in that is we did a full pay and benefits review, a benchmarking across the industry in this
great,
region. We also then enhanced the number of the benefits that we pay to our team,
great.
enhanced maternity, paternity, death in service cover, things like that, just to try and get it up to market. Make sure we weren't behind the market on that one. In terms of other key wins, we've retained top 25 status in the FT advisor listings. We were nominated for 2 Yorkshire Accountancy Awards, came away
Brilliant.
with a highly commended for managing partner. We're nominated for 3 Yorkshire Financial Awards, which are coming up in May. So fingers crossed for some of those as well.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on all those fronts. That's pretty cool. And speaking of wins, how good I often find entrepreneurial people aren't the best at celebrating wins. How good at you are celebrating success?
Um, yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that one. It's a case of announce it, but not do an awful lot more. So you please sort of tell people that it's happened, but you don't do anything particular to celebrate it, I would say.
It's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, I have to be honest. I'm quite similar. In fact, I was a conversation with one of my clients recently, and she said, have you celebrated the win? We had an internal coaching award for myself, and it was just like, well, not really. I celebrate my clients all the time, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's really strange sometimes. I guess I don't know quite what that's all about.
Yeah, we didn't bring balloons into the office or anything like that. Okay.
No, it's so funny. It's yeah, but I do see it as a as a trait in entrepreneurial people. I was told the story. I have a friend who's a public, and forgive me if I may have told you this last time, but he's a public speaker. He's very well known in speaking, and he was at an event where he was sort of more of the MC than the main speaker, and the main speaker was the first the first person to climb Everest with two artificial limbs.
Right.
And no, yeah, and Phil was sitting with him, having dinner before this guy was going to speak, and he just sort of said, "What was it like when you got to the top? It must have been, what was that feeling of being the first person ever to do this? So you're going down in history of doing that." And the guy said, he said, "Well, there was about 2 or 3 minutes of that absolute adulation. I've done it, we've made it, this is incredible." And then he said, "What's next?" And it always hit me that, surely for all the effort that and pain it must have taken to get to the top, just 2 or 3 minutes of celebration sort of just seems a bit light, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think my reaction would probably be, "Blimey, I'm going to get down now as well."
Absolutely, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point. It's not always the easiest thing to do either.
Yeah, I
Brilliant.
mean, and to be fair, a lot of these sort of awards that I've mentioned, sort of you're at events where you celebrate on the night. There are
Yeah,
dinners associated with them or award ceremonies. So that happens. Forgot to mention, well, there's another one we're up for Business of the Year in Huddersfield as well. That's
brilliant.
by a local firm of solicitors. So yeah, we've been doing quite well and celebrating where we can, I think. Yeah.
No, well, I'd say congratulations, and I think it's a really interesting. You mentioned doing a complete pay review and benefits review, and I think it's for me it's a mark of a successful company that does those sorts of things. You're successful because you do those things, not despite doing those things. And clearly, if you're going to pay people more, profitability is going to drop a little bit, but the enhancement in the future of having committed um, individuals is just so valuable. I would suggest.
Yeah, and I think, like I say, I think it was by necessity in terms of we need to make sure that we are
Yes,
not losing out on candidates because of this.
yes,
So if it's not that reason, if it's other reasons, then yeah, we're based in Huddersfield. We're never going to be the firm that attracts people because they want the inner city life and
yep,
whereas
okay,
Leeds and Manchester, they can live there and commute here, but yeah,
yep,
that's the trade-off we have to have. So therefore, we
yeah,
have to make sure that we can match up to them in other areas.
brilliant, brilliant. And whether it's from your challenges or successes, what things would you say are your top tips on growing a successful business?
Um, I think it's always making sure you have got a good team around you,
Yep,
um, people to bounce off, people to challenge you
yep,
as well, just to make sure that's usually how you end up with the right result by consulting with somebody else and somebody challenging what your opinion is on it. Um, and then I suppose from a client perspective, it's supporting businesses and clients, when it's uncertain times,
yes,
even now, everything that's happening, uncertain times, and um, yeah, I suppose the thing that I've learned is that it's easier to get more work out of an existing client than it is to get
yes.
a new client, and don't overlook what else your existing clients might need from you, which is why having a breadth of services is then useful because that helps then you with your growth.
I did 100%. What I found consistently. Firstly, I found consistently, I've never worked with a business where all of the clients bought all of the things they could have bought, if that makes sense. I appreciate not every client wants everything you highlighted earlier for your business, but I've never been in one where the people that would have done, and anyone watching would, if every business, whenever you say, "Oh, I wish I wish I'd known you'd do that," because I've
Yeah.
just, and that's a common phrase that so many people hear. I think the thing is worth being really clear on for me is it's not that we haven't told them that we do it, but at the time we told them that we were doing it, they were only focused on the thing that they wanted, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so the consistency of education is so keen. It's really important that we consistently keep telling them, by the way, we
Yeah.
do these things too, not just
And it's
once at the
all,
start.
and it's also making sure that you continually educate and inform your team because your team changes.
Great point.
People who've been here many years might realize all the services we do.
Great
People
point.
who've been here a few months don't know all those services. So, this prime example, yesterday we had our an internal training session which we have regularly. And on this one we said we're just going to get somebody from each department to stand up for 2 or 3 minutes and explain what they do,
Brilliant.
what sort of clients that they tend to act for.
Yep.
If you then see a client that has that need, you can then make that connection. Whereas if like you say, you don't want them to be going out and saying, I didn't know we did that.
Absolutely. It's you have said because it's so much easier to sell to an existing client. There's already no like
You've
trust.
already got that trust, that relationship there. Whereas a
Absolutely.
new client, you have to build that from scratch.
And there'll be a desire, I want to buy from a trusted source. So
Yeah.
it is a no-brainer. I don't know if you're familiar with the idea, but I know there's, we often teach people a very simple thing called the magic matrix. I can't remember who designed it. And he basically just said, a big piece of paper or big spreadsheet, clients down the left, services across the top.
Yeah.
Everyone that's engaged is across. It's done. That's great. They're buying. Every gap potentially is an opportunity to educate and sell
Yeah.
that service to that client. And I think it's just a great visual way of just saying, right, okay, let's see where the gaps are and let's put
Yeah.
some effort into identifying people that might be interested in those services.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember from last time, but I love to collect quotes or sayings about business or success in life in general. And I don't know if you're able to share any that you catch yourself using on a regular basis.
Um, no, I can't think of anything in particular I use regularly, I wouldn't say.
All good. Don't worry, some people don't, and
I'm sorry.
no, honestly, it's not a problem. It's one of those questions that some people go, yeah, I use them all the time, and other people go, no, I'm just not. But sit on a similar question, and don't feel obliged to answer this one either. But do you have any favorite books or podcasts you recommend? Again, whether it's business success or even just in personally.
No, I mean, if I'm honest, it's sort of podcasts I tend to listen to in the car, but I tend to I tend to be more things to take my mind off work and more sort
Yes, absolutely. I, I've just recently I've asked that question on books, and totally separate people recommended two different authors on crime, the crime
of,
writers that just said, look, these are great books, and it's yeah, it's just
yeah, often like you say, it's escapism if I'm doing something like that. So
yeah,
it's it might be reading a Richard Osman or something like that,
yes,
or it's listening to a podcast. There are some more some more serious ones that you might listen news type ones as well, but yeah, it tends to be more escapism just to switch off.
yeah. Uh, and that's I think really important, isn't it? That ability to switch off
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's a it's tough and it can be stressful running businesses and or even in any level of business but in general. But the ability to switch off is I think is really important and I guess not taking too many things too seriously.
yes, yeah, that's
It
right. Yeah,
it's not it's I was speaking to somebody earlier and they were saying that however passionate we are about what we do and why we do it, it's not life threatening in many cases. We're not, we might want to be considered the fifth emergency service, but for most of us, we're not
Yeah.
necessarily.
Unless you're taking brain surgery or something like
Yeah,
that,
absolutely, absolutely.
it's not known a life and death, is it?
It's
No.
not normally life and death, and it's but it can be so we can get so engaged with what we do that we treat it like that. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes taking a step back and going, you know what, it's not life and death, as you rightly said. Um, and on just sticking on the learning front for a second, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Danny?
Um, I think that it's okay to be who I am and
Great, yeah,
try and be someone else. I think there's an awful lot of time people are trying to be the next someone or emulate somebody else, and I don't think you need to be there. I think showing vulnerability is okay and can be
yes,
inspiring
yeah,
as much as showing strength.
yes,
Um, and being respectful and caring and kind isn't difficult.
yeah,
So why not do it? Because it's not difficult at all. It's one of the easiest things you can do.
absolutely. And I find it really interesting that unfortunately, um, the general public would have this view of business people and business people as being not nice people. In all
I
honesty,
agree.
and
I think it's fed into whenever if you watch The Apprentice on TV, the image is you're fired. Uh,
yes,
yeah, if you watch any soap or drama, the bosses are always the nasty characters in the
yep.
firm sort of thing. And I think it's just trying to escape from that stereotype.
And it's so far away from the truth that I've
Yeah.
established, and I'm guessing I work and meet with so many different people in business, and that the nice guys do win probably, and I believe a lot more often than the any other form of behavior because poor behavior and whether it's aggressive or undermining, you get found out eventually.
Well, I think also, yeah, I think a lot of businesses, certainly in our industry anyway, it's relationship based.
Yes,
So if you are not that person, you are not going to get repeat work. You are not going to get that build that relationship. Um, I suppose if it's more on a transactional level, it probably doesn't matter as much to build a relationship if it's a one-off transaction. But most transactions, you're looking for the repeat. You're looking
yes.
for that's got to be part of
It,
your growth plan. There can't be many businesses who only ever want one transaction from somebody.
it's interesting you say that. We've just had our national conference down in Celtic Manor down in Newport in the conference centre there, and we had some amazing speakers. One of which I think it was he's mentioned this guy called Rory Sutherland, who you might be familiar with. He's a chairman of Ogilvy Marketing. He's really hot, and he does some really interesting things about different ways people both market and look after their clients. And he said something like, if we treat our clients as transactions, then
Mm.
they will treat us as a transaction too.
Yeah,
And exactly what you said is like if we put the effort into the relationship, then the relationship will pay us back.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. Now, we may have talked about this last time, but in Action Coach, we've got a definition of a true business as being something a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners and leaders. And I'm keen to know what your thoughts are on that as a definition from what you've seen yourself.
Um, I would argue that's the definition of a true business in terms of a business that can be sold. I'll put it that
Yep.
way.
Cool.
You can sell a business if it's like that.
Yes.
Uh, I I would argue against it in that there are some that are highly dependent upon their owners and
Yep.
leaders, which you couldn't sell without those people.
Yes.
They're still businesses. They still employ people. They still operate service.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I suppose it's a case of what it is there needs to be somebody to replace that person, and
Yes.
it's whether you can replace the person rather than it doesn't need that person. I think is what the point I'm trying to make. I think.
No, no, I do get that. I mean, we use the phrase, if it doesn't, then the loaner or leader still has a job, i.e. they're still trading time for money. And that's not to disrespect jobs. It's like, 96% of the population have jobs. But
Yeah,
it's that ability to ultimately move towards something that can work without us by infusing the business with our culture, with our thoughts, with our personality, if you like, may eventually give us
yeah.
that opportunity.
I suppose the individuals there probably they might be founders or they might set the culture. Can it operate without them? It can operate. I would argue it can operate, but it's probably not going to grow and
Yes.
flourish as much without them.
That that's what we see is that it can continue to operate and often for a long period of time, but ultimately the curve would be more likely to be downward than upward, and I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just accepting that as a way of working. But I think too many people we find get trapped in the belief that they have to be in the business, if that makes sense, is that,
yes,
and I think it's breaking that mentality of, and also the fact that if you love what you do, then why would you want to be out of that business? It's
yeah.
not like you have to be, but I think it's just having that choice is quite key. Um,
I think it also, like I say, often it's because you might have one particular person who might have the charisma or the skill set, and it becomes self-defeating in that they can generate lots of business, but they all want that person to do it.
yes,
They don't want the other person to do it or the new recruit to do it or whatever. And that's when it becomes difficult, I think, to grow in terms of
absolutely.
I can get all this work in, but they all want me to do the work, and I've only got so many
Yeah,
hours a day I can actually work.
absolutely. I think.
Not talking about myself here, by the way.
No, no, it's all good. No, I was very keen because obviously you're working with lots of business owners, so it's interesting to see your view. But I think the person that's really cracked that as an example of how it could work would be someone like Richard Branson in
Yeah,
terms of I feel that as customers we all feel very connected with him as the leader, but we sort of know he doesn't drive the trains or fly the planes, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
It
yeah,
it but it's quite an interesting way that he's imbued his culture and way of operating into the businesses that he operates. In general, I think maybe there's a couple of wheels have fallen off over time, but in
yeah,
various businesses. But I think as a principle, the culture, and I remember my sister saying, my sister was going back to the 20 odd years, she was cabin crew for British Airways. And she was saying at the time, and that again, their conditions have changed a bit, but at the time they were the best, the best paid by far of any other airline. But the waiting list for Virgin Airlines was three times as long.
yes.
Although they weren't paid as well, they wanted to be part of that ethos, that culture, that way of operating, which I thought was great. So, looking forward then, Danny, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I mean, we've already touched on sort of people. Um, I think beyond that, probably technology is the biggest one.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
Ensuring we can adapt and enabling us to leverage its use at the right juncture. I think it's at what point to adopt certain technologies.
yes,
When is it available? When is the right time to put the investment in to get the right return on that investment?
yes,
That's the difficult judgment at the minute because nobody's quite sure.
yeah,
Big firms have probably got the budget to go out and just spend the money to do what they need. The smaller firms are probably waiting until it's completely done by their tech providers and their software companies.
yeah.
And it's then looking at where you fit in terms of what actually spend and invest and getting the timing right on that one, I think.
It is a difficult one, isn't it? Because as you said, it's we could be early adopters, but early adopters, the challenge could be is that the product or service isn't quite complete, and we can then
Yeah.
become the laggards in many ways from the people that have waited. But when is the right time? As you say, it's such a
And it's
complex.
having the resource to research the options
Yes,
and that you know that's quite time consuming to do.
it really is, isn't it? It really is, and it's as you say, picking the right time is really really key. And is there any whether it's on that front or other things? Are there any key initiatives or developments in your business that we should be looking out for over the next 12 months or so?
One that I suppose we started earlier this year that we hope to just to expand on is that we started a series of events called Beyond the Numbers. So presentations and discussions about things that weren't just
Brilliant.
sort of technical updates from a
Yep.
tax perspective. So we did one on AI, we've done one on family investment companies, we've got one coming up on um, operational efficiencies and trying to, particularly with rising costs, where people can look at trying to get cost savings. So hopefully those will grow. We've had good feedback from what we've had so far. So hopefully can expand on those and have some useful areas to cover for those who are attending.
Brilliant. So people, I'm guessing, in that sort of broader Huddersfield area should be keeping an eye out for
Yeah, if they link with me or Simpson Wood, on our socials, we'll be publicising those events.
brilliant, brilliant. Well, Dan, it's been fascinating to talk to you again, and thank you for sharing some really important concepts on business and business growth. And for anyone that's watching that would like to get in touch with you or Simpson Wood, what is the best way of doing that?
So the website is simpson-wood.co.uk. Contact details are on there. My personal contact details are on there, or look me up on LinkedIn. You'll find me on there as well. Yeah, easy enough to get in touch. Um, happy to have a conversation with anybody who's got an inquiry.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I think, going back to what you talked about at the start, that breadth of service that you offer, I find for especially for business owners to be able to dip into the same source, and have that cross fertilization of knowledge about
Yes.
what the individual is really really valuable. So I'd urge people to search you up and come and see you, maybe get involved in one of the events.
Yeah, yeah, by all means, yeah. Come along. I'm sure there'll be plenty of space for people to book on, and if we get to capacity, I'm sure we'll look at doing another one or recording it or whatever
Brilliant.
to help people with that.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you once again. It'd be great to swing by another 6, 12 months and just see what the next developments are. But for now, firstly, good luck with some of the awards that you're going into for
Thanks very much, Chris.
next month. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for speaking, Chris.
Thank you.